at the Midlands Ireland Gateway to Innovation and Excellence Awards. John is a business dynamo and has enjoyed a long and varied career establishing various companies. He formed Cooley Distillery in 1987 and reopened the old Quebec Distillery in 1989. Cooley is the sole Irish-owned whisky distillery and sells in 45 countries. It has won over 300 international awards, including European Distillery of the Year, 3 times World Distillery in 2008, and the Quebec 15-year-old blend is one of the world's best whiskies. John currently runs 5 exploration companies in oil, gold and diamonds and zinc. He's the only living Irishman with a doctorate from the Harvard Business School. So John will now give you an insight into the role the internet plays in growing the Cooley Distillery business. Thank you.
Run across as a business dynamo, but the old back. Whoever wrote that profile to me is just going to be promoted. She's doing very well. She's also the girl that does most of our social media. I had a choice between bringing you samples of gold, diamonds, or whiskey, but I thought you prefer whiskey being Irish. So there's samples at the back being there if you want to take one. Also, I think in the little pack there's a pass for the distillery in Kilbeggan, which I suggest you go to. Just come from it. Earlier today. It's fabulous. We have an 1813, reinvented 1813 distillery, so it's just a lovely thing. I'm a bit lost because I don't know, I should ask the question, how many grandfathers in the room? 1, 2, 3 of us. 3 of us. Does that put it in perspective? 3 of us in the room. So you're going to hear this from my perspective, and maybe from the perspective of a generation older than you. And what I have to do is, we've had to buy into it, including. And for those of you who may have found some of the stuff earlier difficult in terms of language, and that just I was in UCD earlier today on a thing called open innovation. After listening to it for an hour and a half, I left, and I still don't know what we're talking about. Not the slightest idea. And with respect, fellas, some of the stuff I heard earlier, now I'm going to try. And what I'm going to do is, I've too many slides, I've 17 or 18 slides, I'm going to talk to them, and you can get the rest all online, I hope, if you need to see what we do. Now, you've seen this before, but this is why Cooley has to be in it, and what we have to do it. 30 years to get 50 million, 13 years for television, 4 years for internet, and Facebook added 200 million in less than a year. That's the reality of what we're dealing with. There's now about 600 million, and in fact it may already be a bit mature. And the bottom thing there, for me, is the important thing. Word of mouth and social media, they may actually be separate media. In other words, social media may be the same as radio, television and print media, and then your social media, and they may very well, and the lady Joan earlier said that the last one, the word of mouth, maybe you get a further separate one, because that's where our future proves to lie. Then, if any of you want the book, this guy, Eric Coleman, Socialnomics. Now, a whole lot of buzzwords, but he talks about this stuff in more or less English that fellas can understand, nearly of my age. Not all of it, but a good bit of it. So, we have to do it. The important thing for us is we do it all in-house. We have 1.5 people minding it, and we're not able to keep up, I have to tell you. Not able to keep up. You'll see on the next page, the simplest one, even on the websites, where we have this. And what are we trying to do? Keep an audience up to date, evolve the audience in our business, and embracing many online marketing tools. That's buzzwords. In other words, we're trying to connect with our customers, our potential customers. I think this is a fascinating one. For those of you who did marketing 100 years ago, you would have product life cycle, product adaptation curve. Thank God there's a couple of you nodding. Right, that's where I think we are. I think TV, radio, late majority, it's old, it's mature at this particular stage. But the other thing, that first thing is blogs, 2.5. And the stuff that was even talked about after blogs is probably very early innovators. Now, innovators are extremely important to me in whiskey because they decide what younger people are going to drink. An Irish whiskey is a young person's drink now. Amazing transformation in 10 or 12 years. Totally young person's drink. Early adopters, Facebook and Twitter. So it's already early adopters. And then websites are early majority. In fact, maybe emails and websites are becoming passé for a lot of people at this stage. But where we are, we're doing our best on the early adopters in early majority, and we're trying to work with the blogs. We're trying our best. Now, I don't do any of those things. I have an ordinary telephone. When you get the iPhone now, it gets a bit complicated. But does it mean I don't believe it? No, it doesn't. We have to do it, and I'm not trying to be facetious. Here's what we do. Websites, social networking, bloggers, daily deals, and e-zines, or e-zines, magazines. That's where we're going to do a lot of work, on those last two. Because we can, and I hope very quickly to show you how. Alright, there's the kind of the motherhood concepts on the website. We have 6 websites for Cooley products, for our brands and for Cooley Distillery. You will note I've only put up 2. And there's a very good reason for those of you who try to do it. Many of you have websites. I spoke to them, I said, I want to put, yeah, you've all got websites. We want to put up the 6 websites. And she wouldn't do it. Why? There's 4 of them aren't up to date. Now we have 6 for Cooley and we have 5 for the resource operations. So we have 11 websites in total. Anybody want to comment on how much time it will be to keep those up to date with things going on? We're struggling. So Rachel Quinn, who's the marketing manager, will only put up 2 that she's happy with. Cooley Whisky and Connemara Whisky. Doesn't even have the Kilbegan experience one up yet. Though they were there because they're old. If you scroll through, you'll probably see there things like Connemara. Connemara is there. Tyrconnell, Greenore, will be other brands that we have. And yet, she wouldn't give you examples of a website because we're struggling to keep up to date. Now you, if you're a small business, must have the same problem. If you're doing it in-house, well and good, but if you're paying outside guys, have to be in touch with them. We use a local Clontarf anyway, but he's part of the family to do that. I think those 3 things, the brand is the focus, but the content relevant and updating a website to work with today's technology, I think is very difficult and time consuming. Do you have to do it? Yes. Is a website an ad, or is it an online trading? We can't sell whiskey online, so in a way I'm lucky. I can't say I failed, because of different taxes and different excise duties cross-border. It's actually illegal. So if you buy a bottle of whiskey for a friend in the UK, we might ship it to the UK, but if it be stopped at the customs and the bottle will be gone. In the US, it's almost certain it will be taken. So we might sell to other online drink sites, but we don't do it. It takes a hell of a load off our backs. That we don't have to do that. That's my excuse getting away with it. Otherwise, I think websites will still be very important for you. And they looked at, yes, they did. I was in the office last Saturday morning, early, and in the space of half an hour, I got 2 calls from people who were going to the distillery in Quebec. And said, what are they calling me in the office in Clontarf? I was the only one in the place. And it turned out that on the Kilbegan Whisky website, they only have the Clontarf Road phone number. We don't have the phone numbers of either the museum or the office in Kilbegan. And we're doing this for a few years. So, was that a screw up? Yeah. And it was important enough because one fellow said, we'll be there in 10 minutes. I said, you'll be where? It was a busload of Americans. I said, you're very welcome, I'll be gone. So, look, I'm being facetious. I think this is an important thing. If you can do it, gets your product or your business out, but you're going to have to work on it. And I think even if you look at ours, and we do work on it, some of them are old. And in the case of the whiskey, any fast-moving consumer good, it changes so fast that you want to be doing it on a regular basis, maybe once every 2 weeks. Maybe you need a protocol for doing it, which is a big word. Right. Social network, Twitter and Facebook. Business to consumer relationship. When somebody said consumer to business, yes. That's something that's not up there. Facebook is the community. And Twitter is real time. What are you doing right now? I have problems with it, in that I'm not that comfortable. I'm sure I'm the only one in this room. I'm not that comfortable spreading myself over Facebook or Twitter, and I won't join LinkedIn either. You know, I'm not that private a person, but I'm not so sure I want it. That's probably reflecting the fact that I'm a grandfather. All right, I accept that. But it's an issue. It's an issue for me. And what do we have? We're using both of them, and in fact I'm delighted to hear we're doing okay. We started on the Facebook about November, and the target is 10,000 Facebook fans by September, and 1,400 Twitter followers. I may have a better number, I think that's correct. You put that in perspective that Irish Distillers has 100,000 Facebook fans, and Tullamore do 15,000 Facebook fans. Now both of those are outsourced. They do everything outside. People will do it for them. And we do it all inside. Now, what's interesting about doing that? Now, like the daily update, who again is going to do it? So you have to come in the morning and do it. But for us, we have kind of a lot of product innovations. A lot of changes, maybe change labels, prices, anecdotes, etc. All of this is put in. The important thing, who is going to do it? So I have Rachel Quinn who does that. But Rachel Quinn has to interpret what's going on up in Cooley itself, what's going on in Clontarf, what's going on in Kilbeggan. And somebody has to tell her. How do you get the flow of information in your company so that the interesting thing is going? I don't know, by the way. I don't know how you do that. Will we get a bit better at it? We might. Only we might. You go down to, I was there telling Kilbeggan, and I heard things this morning that ran on our Twitter or Facebook page. It's better, good things. But nobody thought to pass them on to the Dublin office, the person who put them up on Twitter on that. But it's very important that we do it, and we are certainly going to build up. So from that viewpoint, yes, this is an important part of us. And I want to, as I say now, I've done the websites on the social networking part of this. This area, easings, which is very new for us. The call to action, for those of you who did marketing again, I thought this was some highly new technical term. Can anybody remember doing marketing where you had the purpose of advertising was attention, interest, desire, and action? I.e. do you remember that? Some of you I can see in the odd place, the rest of you have forgotten it. I used to teach it, so I can't forget it. That's what the second thing is. In other words, they see it on the electronic magazine and they want to make you buy. So in other words, this is an advertising program. That's what this essentially is in English. I didn't say that, I don't know, but I tell you. And to make it easy, the click-through ratio, again, we get a big click-through ratio. So what that means is, if you happen to click on an article about, let's say, John Teeling, and somebody says he's involved in whiskey, it'll be an easy thing to click through to whiskey, to Cooley, to Kilbeggan. That is some kind of a technique, you fellas will know how to do it. It gets done, and we're very important that I haven't a clue what can be done. And it's, I don't know how to make whiskey either, but that's true, I don't. I've never tasted it in my life, so you know, it's teetotal. I didn't know that. You also didn't know I used to own Glen Abbey. Many of you remember Glen Abbey. Made 50% of all the ladies' underwear in the country. And I rarely wore it. Certainly not in public. Definitely not. Actually, it was only the kind of Martin's pants it wasn't. Sorry, let's get back to business. Now, this burning opportunity, that's the things we all want, isn't it? If we can get in our magazine that we put up something that people want to see, and then it can go on. That's the whole thing about the YouTube, about the orangutan with the little yoke that you saw yesterday. Was it a bird or something they picked out of the sea, or out of their lake up in the zoo? Went to 300,000 or 400,000 people very quickly. If you can get through that, that's the objective. Again, motherhood concepts tonight, we're going to stay quite active on these easings. Now, how do we get the database? Exactly the same as you're doing outside here, like Carmel is doing. You sign up. It seems to be very old-fashioned. So you have to get a pen and paper and sign your email address, and now you're on the Cooley Easy. But we've had to expand it. We've got about 40,000 people in Cooley, and so if half of them sign up, and then there's all the various shows that they will do, and it grows fairly rapidly. Again, we're going to go to a monthly one. I say it's dead simple. It's all just done on the computer. It's great. Who's going to do it? As I said, we've 1.5 people now that are involved, and the one person and the half a person. If suddenly you've got a rush job, for instance, the whole lot of them this week are all at Bordeaux. The next goes on, and we've a total worldwide marketing team of 8, marketing and sales of 8 people. 5 of them are there. So it means I don't think any of these things have been done this week at all, because the guys are out selling and marketing and on a trade show. If you're a smaller company, used to be many years ago, I was a consultant in a very small company. And when I was doing it, I wasn't selling. So you might remember that, a one-man band. It was great. Jeez, working off, and then you came to the end of the job and you had got another job, because you had no time to do marketing when you were doing the job. It's a problem of managing time. If it's a small company, these things take time. Still have to be done. They have to be done. Now, this is a very interesting one that has worked out, and I'll show them to you in a minute. The online deals and all the various ones. Maybe I'll give it to you here. I think point 2 and point 3 are critical on this. You know, you've all seen the various deals, curry, what is it, pig's back, and 104, FM 104 is a great deal. I heard it yesterday. God, you're getting everything for about €22. It's good. But if you take, there's no cost to offer it, but you only buy it if you have good margins. Unless most of you are very lucky, I couldn't sell whiskey like that. But I can sell access to Kilbeggan. Because like ice cream, if I don't sell it, they don't turn up. So I can get 50% off admission fee to Kilbeggan quite happily, because what I want to do is I want to sell on. I want to go into the shop, buy a bottle of whiskey. I make my money from the whiskey, not from going to Kilbeggan. And on top of that, it's the Kilbeggan experience. It's not Locke's Distillery anymore. It was for 180 years, but I have a 34-year-old son who says it's not the Kilbeggan experience, so I'm very sorry. That's what it's called now. And he's the oldest one in the marketing. I was on a stand with him at Whiskey Live in Dublin. None of you were at that show. It was Whiskey Live. We had a big stand there. And I was 30 years older than anybody else. That's depressing. So the dynamo was kind of spluttered in a bit. Probably needs to be rewired or something. But this is very interesting. For those of you who have a product where you have a nice fat margin, or else where you want it purely as advertising, which we want both. We want to sell the Kilbeggan brand, and we want to get people to go around the experience. So I'm happy enough to get 50% off. They did a great deal of work very well. We may even have it, have we? No, yeah, that one there. 2 visitors plus a bottle of whiskey, a tasting session, specialist tasting session for four whiskies, and a bottle of Kilbeggan for €20. It was sold for Father's Day. They sold, these are the ones, the main one we've done is City Deals and Boards. I don't think we've used the other ones yet, but we will. €20. And what did we sell? Yeah. So it went down to 300,000 email accounts twice. All I want to do, I'm advertising the brand. Right? Advertising the Kilbeggan brand. We only do it for Kilbeggan. We don't do it for anything else. None of the other brands, the Kilgunga, the Connemara, the Greenroe, don't do it. And we got, the first time we did it 400 tours, the second one 600. Now you know how these work. They're about 50% off, and when they go, it's a fantastic deal for City Deals and all. They make that fortune. Brilliant. Because you pay them. If you don't use it, they don't pay you. You have. So when they come in, you get a voucher. We get the voucher. We collect the vouchers every couple of months. We send it in. I'm sure they'll pay us. I know they will. Maybe. No, they will. But again, I would have got, and you very rarely go on your own to tour any facility. So we probably got 1,000, or we will get 1,000 people. And given that we had 40,000 less than 40,000 last year, you know, another 1,000 or 2,000 is significant. Plus it's domestic. And for those of you who know, Cooley is not a domestic company at all. 95% of our stuff is overseas. It's, again, the new marketing guys want to go after the Irish market. The older ones, we didn't do it. They went to overseas market. This is interesting. Purely brand awareness and brand trial. There's the buzzwords up there. I think it's interesting we will go for this. This is it. This is amazing for me. And go back to, remember your innovators. For those of you, this is the first 2.5% of potential customers. These are ones at the forefront of various things. It's not the early adopters. The early adopters tend to be, you know, middle class, upper income, well educated. The innovators are innovators. You could call them whiskey nerds or anoraks or geeks in the case of whiskey. And do they know their stuff? You better believe. They keep me away from them. Because they would start to ask me things about fuselages and aldehydes and they're the ones that you ever go and you see it, and it amazes me about Irish whiskey. It blows my mind now because it's 45% female, 55% male drink. Scotch, and it's 25 to 35 is the average age of a whiskey drinker, the Irish whiskey drinker in the US. 45% female, 55% male, 25 to 35 upper income. Scotch is what? 80% male over 50. Totally different, so the future is good for us. Really good for us. And 20 years ago, Irish whiskey was 80% male over 50. Changing tastes. Why? Nobody knows. Young American men started drinking whiskey and women. And for those of us who are old, the 3 grandfathers in the room, to see a young girl in her 20s with a glass of whiskey, you know, swimming around talking about the technical aspects of whiskey, go, I'm not used to that. You see it increasingly, and they're just as knowledgeable. Now, you may say, Lacey, oh, we should have been, yeah, but it's just different. And what you have to know, it's word of mouth is that I think it may be a distinct category online. I think you may be able to get to this. And some of you must have businesses where you can get word of mouth, be it tourism, be it water, be it food, be it something. where you can say, look, I can fit into this one. It's easy for us. This is an easy one for us if we can get to grips with it. Now the problem here is who's going to blog in our company? Not John Teeling, because John Teeling is not technically good enough on the intricacies of whiskey. I may have set the damn thing up, I don't know the intricacies of how it works. So I need my blenders, I need the distillers to work in that area. And they will have to go back into the blogs. And they have their own websites and their own forums and forums. But what have we done? A few things. The Malt Imposter, the Irish Whisky Society is the nice one. The Whisky Wire, but then can you read this thing at the end? Malt Maniacs. Malt Maniacs is an early one, but extremely influential. This is down here. And they selected Kirkconnell, and it's 2008, that was later, as their world's best malt whisky. Now, we use that on our websites, of course, and we use it here in our presentations, but that went around to maybe 30 or 40,000 people who drink malt whisky. And an awful lot of people who drink malt whisky would never assume that you drink Irish malt whisky because Jameson doesn't have a malt. So this is extremely important. We're working hard on this, and what we do is they try not to influence them. It's not a promotional medium. So we send them samples to, there are 300 of these blogs in Germany. Sweden is the same. Very, very knowledgeable consumers. And they arrive in Kilbeggan. We know they're coming to Kilbeggan, they get special sessions. Now, when you call them Anorites or nerds, they're not. They're ordinary people who just happen to know their whiskey very well. I think this is very important for us, and we're going to have to work harder on that. Now, that is about the limit of our knowledge at this particular stage, but we're working on it, and it is going. If you are into this, you'll see we do very well in the blogs. One, we're independent. Two, we're Irish, and those two things go very big, because there's no other Irish company and there's no independent company. You have Diageo, you have Pernod, and you have Grantstown and Tullamore. So, and also the chief distiller will do his blog, and the chief blender will talk about it, and he's well able to. Luckily, the blender is technically competent to do this. So these are important areas for us. Now, this is the latest one and the next stage is trend. I'm not even going to talk to them. I'm just about done. We use YouTube, and we're starting to use YouTube. And if you want to know about Irish whiskey, you know, there's a thing saying the victor writes history. The battle. And in our particular case, for the longest time, Jameson was a monopoly, so the history of Irish whiskey was how Jameson was made, and nothing to do with that at all, totally different. And we have a guy called global brand ambassador, John Cashman, who does a 1-hour show. It's absolutely brilliant. Myself and David Hines, the two guys that we used to do it, we saw him doing it. I mean, we're not even in the 4th division. We're out of it altogether. He's fabulous. If you get a chance to see John Cashman giving a master class about Irish whiskey, he's just fabulous. The history of it and the 4 products, the different types of products, how they fit in. Now, what's the difference between a green or grain, a blend like Kilbeggan, a single malt or a peated malt, and where peated malts were made in Ireland, all these things. It's just fabulous. Now, that video, he's been doing it all over the States, and is going to go up on YouTube. It either is or nearly is up there. So, in essence, that's where we are. Let me just summarise what we have to do. The website's important to keep them going, but it's kind of maturing technology very rapidly. For those of you in small companies, I don't know how you handle the amount of time and work that it's going to take, but you're going to have to face it. As I say, the two ones is the social networking and the word of mouth blogging. It's extremely important. I wish you the very best on it, and if you come back in 10 years' time, it'll be the new applications. Probably what we're talking about today will be long gone at that point. But thank you very much for this. Thank you.
Ronan is the founder and CEO of Zatori Results Limited, one of Ireland's leading e-commerce firms, and owns 7 further businesses in the online sector, including the customshop.ie, Ireland's biggest fancy dress stores, and Malloy's.ie, an online pet accessory boutique. In early 2011, Zatori launched its first international subsidiary in Delhi, India, and it's at customshop.ie.in. Ronan will now explain how to optimize your website and convert web traffic into sales. Very welcome.
I'm just going to keep talking because I tend to go on sometimes. There's never been a better time to start a business. I honestly believe that. And a lot of people think recession's awful because there's no capital available. It is awful if you're running a business. but if you're running a business, there's never a better time to take a different direction with it. A lot has changed since I used to sit down in John Teeling's class up in UCD and learn my marketing, and a lot has changed since then. So just to give you a bit of background why I'm up here talking what I do. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I spend about 40% of my time starting new businesses, and once they're up and running, I put structures in place and I pass them on to the operations manager, the general manager, and then I move on. The other 60% of my time is divided equally between optimizing and updating our sites to the latest technology, and then also just making sure that we're taking new steps to grow them in different directions. So here's an example of some of the businesses that I currently own. The biggest fancy dress costume business in the country, the biggest pet shop in the country called Molly's.ie, ladies swimwear, mobility aids, and we've just recently launched in Delhi. Now when I say Delhi, everyone assumes that's some factory with coders working. We actually do all the coding over here in Ireland, and we outsource the coding from Delhi to Ireland. And in Delhi we've got our operations in terms of phone, email support, because we want local dialect to be looking after the customers, and then our warehousing and distribution. So this is the old model of advertising, and this is what we would have been taught about 10 years ago, how the traditional idea for a company works. You get a marketing budget which you allocate for the year, and you spend that on, for example, a newspaper ad which might have a circulation of 100,000. Out of 100,000, you hope 1 in 100 might actually care about what you have to sell. So you're saying, okay, 1,000 people might actually take the time to read my ad, and over time, where people used to read newspapers cover to cover, now they're kind of skimming, reading headlines, getting all the papers, reading what they want, and generally speaking, they try to block out the messages because they're getting 10,000 ads every single day, broadcast to them on different mediums, billboards, on Twitter, on Facebook, on all the different functionalities, ads on TV. You just get up and go out and make a cup of tea until the TV, or until the thing goes back on, or if you're a little more tech savvy, you TiVo it, and just, it doesn't affect you. So people all these shields basically that they use to ignore ads all the time, and this has been the big problem with the companies over time. So their conversion rate went from 100,000 people reading the paper, 1,000 looking at it, maybe 20 of them were interested in the item which you were selling, and they contacted you and made a phone call or they called out to your shop, and then maybe 4 of those actually ended up buying. And the idea was, well, if you build a brand and those 4 people come back over time, you might not run out of money, survive, and you can grow a prosperous business. But it's a bit of a hit and miss job, because you could also run the ad and no one will care, or no one will contact you, or worse, no one will convert. Alright, so you wasted your money, and there was no definitive answer, and it was a risk every time you did it. You ran the same ad 2 weeks later, the people that were already interested saw the ad the last time and ignored it this time, and you'd have completely unpredictable results. That's what conversion rate is, and I'll have to go into it in a little more detail in a while, and that will give you your unpredictable sales. I mean, really what it was is you sent your money out to an ad, and hopefully it got a good response. But a lot of the time, you'd hire a marketing company, they put an ad up, and the person that was reading that ad got a completely different impression of what you're trying to get across. So in this case, the airlines, they've done everything right, they've hired the right marketing company, whether it's either on purpose or not, nobody's getting on a Turkish airline after seeing that. So this is the new model we use for advertising, okay? What we do is we apportion a percentage of the profit to the sale. Okay, so you say for every €100 that I'm going to make in profit, I'm going to allocate a percentage of that to the marketing. And with that, you've got an infinite marketing budget, which means you can scale your business really, really fast. And this is the tools that I use to grow our businesses at triple-digit percentage growth on an annual basis. All of them. Okay? So the way it works is basically you know your conversion rate from obtaining all the data. Now you've got a website that's hopefully making sales or leading generations, and you're collecting all this data with your Google Analytics. You know the average sale amount, so you can say, look, every time 100 customers come through the door, on average, some might pull out 500, some might pull out a tenner. On average, they're going to spend €100. So you know that data as well. And you know what your profit margins are on that €100 average sale. So the only real variable is the number of sales you can make. And you can adjust that by adjusting the percentage of the profit which you're willing to allocate to marketing. So how fast you want to grow, or how fast you want to live. Okay? So that's the new model. And you can ask questions about that later, but I've got a ton of stuff to do. But what you need to know is you don't need a marketing budget anymore. You need to allocate a percentage of sales and get the data and really study the data to work out what's going to work on the different mediums. And that's why you decide, will we focus on blogs, e-zines, Twitter? Is there any results on Twitter? Because you can be talking all the time and getting nowhere. And the worst thing in the world you can do is take these social media things on, open a Facebook page, open a Twitter account. And a quick example, we were going to tender for a project worth about 36,000. The company was on Twitter, posted every single day some news or some random topic, and we assumed they were on Twitter because they're posting every day, and I see them every day. So I said, guys, I sent you an email about that tender, haven't heard from you. 3 or 4 days later, guys, the tender is due in on Friday, if you're interested, come. And these guys would have loved this project. They would have been perfect for it. But they didn't actually check their incoming Twitter messages. All they were doing was broadcasting their message out. So they didn't really understand the medium. 2 months later, they go, oh, I just saw your project, can we still do it? No, the project was implemented by then. So don't undertake it unless you've got staff, resources to do it, and you plan to look after it in the long term, because it can hurt you just as much doing it wrong as doing it right. Site optimization is really what I'm here to talk to you about, and obviously that's one of our specialities. What you need to do is make your product and offering really simple. You've got less than half a second when someone adds to your page. When they click on that link from Google to find out, are they going to say, is this what they want? If you confuse them in any way, they will leave, and that's called keep rate, okay? And again, that's another data that you measure. How much are they going to find out? And to that, you make your information really, really simple. You want to let them know who you are, what you are, and really importantly, where you are. Because loads of people have beautiful sites. And it doesn't mention are you in Ireland, you could be in the US. In fact, for our costume site, a lot of people would assume we're in the US because there wasn't that big a market available before we came online and made it a big industry. Okay? So you've got to have your prices available if you're going to be selling something online. And if you're not selling something online yourself, where can you buy it? So if I'm going over to look at Kilbeggan whiskey, I want to know exactly where I can get it. And that doesn't matter where in the world I am. If I'm sitting there in Nigeria, in India, in America, I want a list of the local stockists. So I want to be able to find it, and I want to be able to find it quickly. If I can ask the question and then go back to Google and ask it and find the information on someone else's site, and that site might also give someone else's brand. Split testing, just briefly so you know what this is. I'm not going to go into detail on these topics. Split testing means making 2 copies of your website site and sending every second person to a different page. And you measure the data to see which page performs the best, and then you go with that. And you keep improving your site incrementally. So every day you might make a 1% increase in how your site performs. Over time, that's exponential, and it really inserts your conversion rate to go very high. So that's quite important. You just need to know it's there. And if you're a small company starting out, just go with the best practices. So later on I'll talk about heat maps, but look at Amazon, look at Zappos, the big online retailers. See what they're doing. And know that they've done this split testing before. They're doing everything for a reason. So look on at that and copy it through. There's 2 other parts I'm going to talk about now. I wasn't sure if we'd have too many geeks or whatever with us, so I thought I'd add this slide for those that can read. The line in bold is essentially important. What it means is there's a new version of Google Analytics tools which will allow you to measure the speed the page loads up for the user, not for the website. And that will tell you how fast your users are able to access your content. I just thought I'd throw that in case somebody came along and they were really technical and everything else I told you was really basic. This is another thing that really, this is my kind of pet hate, I suppose, at the moment, okay? Can anyone tell the difference between those 2 websites? Or are they 2 different websites? If you look really closely, the URL's got the triple W, someone's just about to bring that up. Now, you've essentially got 2 pages on the internet. Now, there's a little line of code that people can put in to tell Google, but focus on the triple W one. The right thing to do is just give them one option. So in your HD access file, tell them, my website is going to be www. or the other version. But don't let them choose which one they're going to go to, okay? So you can put a line in code, say, Google, focus on this one. The best thing to do is just have one up there in mind. And if you don't have either of those things done, you essentially have 2 versions of your website out in the open space, and Google ignores one because it says that content is exactly the same as the other content. So if you combine them together, you'll index a lot higher on the organic searches. And little tips like that can allow you to really rocket up in your search engine marketing in terms of being #1 on Google, and also in the power that's involved in the website to pass around that juice once it's onto your page. So just to know that these things are important. This is not the stuff that your web designer is going to tell you. It's not the stuff that they know necessarily. It's not their job. Their job is to get you a bit of code, graphics, and look pretty. This is the job of someone that does conversion optimization to go and say, you've got a mistake here, that's wrong, this is how to get more powerful. And there's 100,000 of these tips. And just because I chose this example, that's a big company, and they can make a really simple improvement. 6 lines of code in a HD access file. And if companies that are really big don't know this stuff, it makes it really easy for companies that are small, like my little companies, to go in and just outmaneuver them, outsmart them, and then outrank them. Now, I'm not going into the mobile phone industry, but it's just an example. Big companies can make mistakes. So doing it right first time, the small company is really worthwhile. Ugly URLs, another one of the things that used to happen in the 1990s and somehow still exists. Sometimes when you get an off-the-shelf product, it will give you a URL, /store, catalog, whatever. Keep your URLs pretty. You want to say, section, dogs, in this, dog food, okay? Keep the keywords important. It'll help you rank, as it'll say to Google, this is about dogs, it's about dog food. If you have the other thing, it's about nothing, and it doesn't look pretty. And good people, their eyes aren't attracted to it either when they see it on the listing page. So try to keep, the basics. This is SEO 101 of how to run your site. Use SEO-friendly URLs. This is a heat map. Again, it's quite technical, but what this does is it chases people's eyeballs when they're looking at your screen. So I've taken an example of the Twitter homepage and how eyeballs look at the screen. And this is just to give you an example of where you should be putting your content on your page, okay? So on the left-hand side, if you're facing it, this is where people expect to find information category. At the top right, they expect to find content. Don't go and reinvent the wheel, okay? This stuff works, and this is what people are comfortable using. If you go and mess up where they're expecting to see stuff, and they look to the left and can't find the navigation tools, they look at the top and can't find your contact details, they're just going to feel like something's wrong. They're not quite comfortable with what they're doing, and they're going to go somewhere that just feels a little more homely to them, okay? And by doing things that make them feel comfortable, they're happy enough, they're in a good mood, they're more likely to pull out their credit card, which is really your end goal. Or if you're not selling something via e-commerce, you still are selling something. You're selling your services, you're selling the fact that they should contact you, that they should remember your whiskey, that they should do whatever you want them to do. They're always selling something. Keep that in mind with the goal, measure it, and see how long people are getting there. And then once you've measured it, try to improve. Every single day, try to improve. Barriers to purchase. There's a lot of offline and online things that shock me every day, that people actually put things in the way of people doing what they want to do. People are usually on your website because they want to solve a problem. They want to get information. They want to learn. So you want to have constant improvement based on customer feedback. If someone's emailing you saying, I can't find this bit of information on your website, could you tell me? And you have it on your website, you need to put it in a better place. If they're asking you, hey, do you sell this product? And you don't sell it, you need to stock that product. Okay, keep a list of the reasons people are contacting you, and hopefully you can solve it to the point where they don't need to contact you anymore. Because if they're on the website, they probably just want to solve the problem as quickly as possible themselves, and the less personal involvement that they have, sometimes the better. Okay, especially in the realm of e-commerce where you want to be doing large volumes, quick, fast, and easy. Also, you're closed at 4 in the morning when some of your customers are buying. That's quite important. Laser cards. A lot of people start their online stores and say, actually, we'll just use PayPal. It's much easier than dealing with those awful bankers. Alright? Laser cards, 43% B2C business. So if you're running an online store and you're not looking at taking the payments that people prefer, they'll just go somewhere else that does. Alright? Don't put yourself at a disadvantage. It is an absolute nightmare to get the initial merchant accounts. But if you're serious about doing it, beta test with PayPal, beta test with a cheaper website. But once you decide to go all in correctly, and don't put any barriers like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't take that type of cash. No, you have to go off to the ATM and come back with a different type of fresher notes. That doesn't work in reality. If they can't buy it the first time, they might say, oh, sure, I'll try to come back tomorrow. But only half of them, right? So when they've got the wallet in hand with their laser card in it, take their laser card details. Don't be the bottleneck. And I've seen this so many times, offline, online businesses, right? If they can't get through to you on the phones because they're looking for information, the problem is you're not answering the phone calls. The problem is the information wasn't there in the original thing. Try your best to just step back and get out of the way as a business owner in everything you do. Once the system is set up, let other people get involved, all right? If you put yourself as everything has to come through me, I have to talk to every customer, I have to process every order, you're never going to scale your business, and it's really important not to be the bottleneck. You're not as great as you think you are. Certainly I'm not as good as I used to think I was, and now I've learned to let people that are much more smarter come into my company and run the businesses. Once I've had the great fun of setting up the business and the ideas, I let the smarter people come in and run it day to day. So try not to be a bottleneck. Eliminate and simplify. Sometimes people have too much information on their website, too much trying to educate and trying to get them to follow what they want to know. Try to find out what the person is there to do and do it in a basis of what's in it for them attitude, okay? So if they're there to find, if you're going to a restaurant and they want to find, do you have chicken on the menu? Don't try to make them go through 50 different pages before they find out you're a vegetarian restaurant. Have it at the door. Just be really clear and simple with them. Technology isn't everything, and I love the fact that people just throw technology and throw money at it. it's not the only solution. You have to run a business like a solid business, as if you would if you're an offline business. You need to look after your customers. You can use technologies to automate stuff, but at the end of the day, you need to be still adding value, delivering good customer service. Word of mouth is what really sells things today. So at the moment we operate in a Web 2.0 and we're going into Web 3.0 marketing. Now I know that's just fancy talk, but what it means is the next generation of marketing, which is where I operate at the moment. The Google +1, where your friends have voted for certain websites and you're looking to buy an item, you say, well, I'm going to go with the one that all my friends have bought from, or else I'll go onto Facebook or Twitter and ask them, see you bought up this website, good experience, bad experience. Okay? So this is the next generation of marketing, and it's really important that you don't let the technology bog down common sense, because a lot of common sense isn't that common, and really it makes a huge difference, because if you change the way a business has been done for years, they won't copy you because they've always been doing it that way. If you make an incremental change, they'll adjust. If you totally change the way they've been doing the business, they won't copy you because that invalidates what they've been doing for the last couple of years and how they've been making a living. So there's 3 ways to grow your business. I'm going to finish up shortly enough and we'll answer questions maybe after the last speaker, if that's okay. This is just common sense, and this works online, offline businesses. But people don't really take the time to step back from their startup, to step back from their day-to-day slogging it out, to go, how am I actually going to grow my business? So the first way is to increase the size of the orders. So if you're selling €50 orders, work out how to sell 60 or 70 euro orders. If the customer has to buy an add-on, so if they're buying some sort of gadget and they need batteries and you don't sell batteries, add the batteries. If you're a doctor and you're trying to grow your practice, right, and you're struggling saying, oh, well, I want to grow my practice, it's not because of demand, I just want to grow it. Don't add another bloody GP. Add a dentist. Solve the people's problems. They can go to their doctor, and sure, while they're there and being miserable, they might as well go to the dentist as well. Another thing is, who makes an appointment to go and wait in a waiting room for 45 minutes? So respect your customers as well, okay? If you want to grow your business, use them that way. That way you increase your turnaround, your customers will come in, but also increase your order size while they're there for the day, dentist and doctor, not just doctor. Frequency of orders. If you're a dentist or a doctor and you want your customers to see you every year, tell them 11 months later, due to see you next month, what day would suit you. Alright? How many times have we just not got around to doing your next visit? Because no one's reminded you, no one's asked you, no one said the optimum amount of time for you to go and see your doctor is every 6 months. This is how much you should do to make sure you're perfect health all the time and increase the frequency. I'm not saying try to sell them as much as possible, but you're their trusted advisor. That's the place you want to be. You don't want to leave anything on the table. You want to give them the best service possible for them to get the optimum outcome. And once they trust you, then you can use the upside and downside screens, which is if you're selling as a doctor and somebody needs to go and buy a wheelchair, you don't want to say, oh yeah, off you go buy a wheelchair. You want to say, look, here is a couple of brands that we recommend. These are good, and I recommend these suppliers. And you can do deals, affiliate deals with people that are running businesses selling these things. I'm not just saying because I own a wheelchair company, but I'm saying anything you sell, if you have to refer someone to, partner with that company. Say, you've got people buying wheelchairs and I'm a doctor. Refer them to me when they're having a problem. Say, we have a good doctor who might be able to help you with your pain if you're complaining about the wheelchair causing you pain. And likewise, we'll flip back and swap customers with you. We'll give you access to our database. If you're an accountant and you've got a client who's working as a personal trainer and it comes around to Christmas, well, there's no budget anymore for doing the Christmas presents. Why don't you let him give a free day's training? He'll give them to you for free. You hand out the vouchers, you've given them a Christmas present, he's given them 1 day's training, and suddenly he's able to convince them, you know what, you should be doing personal training 1 day every week, and suddenly he's got a client for life. And the marginal net value worth, write that down, marginal net value worth of the customer is their lifetime value to you. So there's no problem giving away the first training session because you know that over the space of a year they're going to be spending 600 quid with you. Okay? So that's pretty much all I'm going to do there. The credits from some of the pictures I took. We're going to throw this video presentation and John's up on my blog as well, and you can ask questions there. We're going to ask questions afterwards as well, and the panel. So I'm going to pass you on to Tom now. Okay?
Thank you very much, Gordon. Thank you. During the afternoon, I mentioned the exhibitors. At the back, we have.
What's the best way if you only have a website that you're not selling a product on, but it's primarily for people to pick up the phone or email you or contact you that way?
Okay.
To get your ratings up, what is it, tag words that are going to get you up to the top of
So
Google?
when you say rating, you mean your organic listing?
Yes.
Okay. Just to rephrase the question for everyone to hear, she's asking how to get your organic listings up if you're trying to use your website as a lead generation tool. So there's two ways for any website to kind of get traffic, and that's paid and non-paid, quite simply. And the other thing you need to do is you always measure, so you've got your Google Analytics in, and your go, what you're selling, is the contact form. So it's the thank you after someone's filled out the contact form, click submit, then it goes to a page. Thanks for giving us this email. It usually takes us about 24 hours to get back. We don't actually work on Sunday, we'll be back to you on Monday, it's the weekend, and you have those codes in your thing, and you recognise every time you get a page. You're saying that's our conversion rate, so that's what you're trying to measure. In terms of ranking, there's so many attributes to what comes in. It's all about incoming links, it's about your page power, it's about the way your page is structured. Page load speed is very important. Where you host your service is really, really important. So if you've decided you're going to go with cheap hosting with GoDaddy and base your site in America, that's going to affect your ranking in Ireland, because you've got to send the data all the way over the sea every time. So you're much better off hosting in Ireland, or else hosting on a really heavy server somewhere in Europe. But also most of the cloud servers are based in Ireland, so it's a great place to do it. But host locally, get your page very well organised in terms of your title tags correct and exactly what you do, not keyword stuffing, but a sentence about what your business is, and then partner with other companies so you've got a lot of links coming into your site. It is a kind of a science to a certain extent, and you need to have all the different elements in place. There's tons of information. The other area, just quickly, we'll address is the paid search, and that's a triangle with AdWords, which is the biggest paid search. So it's a pay-per-click model where you pay each time someone clicks, and you've worked out your conversion rates and how much your customer is worth. So you say your marginal value of the customer is €100, profit on that is 10. You're willing to spend €5 to obtain that customer, and then you say, okay, for every 100 customers I get one, so I'm willing to spend 100 by the €5. Okay, so that's how you'd address the paid campaign. You'd run your ads through Google, and they appear on the top or on the right hand side of the page, and it's a combination of the two of those that will bring the traffic to your site. And in terms of the organic, it's a matter of getting your page spot on, getting your off-site links coming in, and getting people to talk about you, and then driving also traffic from social media.
Thank you, Ronan. Any other questions behind the camera?
Would the panel like to comment on the use of, say, Facebook ads and their upsides and downsides?
Actually, just saw on Twitter there now, there's in the last half an hour that they reckon that bought advertising on banner ads on Facebook will be the biggest next year. So I think that's interesting in itself. And I think, it's the interesting thing about social media in terms of advertising is traditional advertising never had to prove itself as hard as new media is having to do to prove itself. But the great thing is that new media actually can prove itself, so it's much more measurable. And I think, it's like what Ronan was saying in terms of, anything you do for your site, you have to keep going back to it all the time. So if you're working on your organic rating for SEO, you can get yourself to number one, but you're not going to stay there. I had a very irate person ring me one time. They owned a business, and they said, "Oh my God, it's outrageous. My web developer developed our site, and he told me I'd be guaranteed to be number one. And he's told all his clients that, and one of them is a competitor of ours." And I said, well, it's only logical that only one of you can be one. Who can be first? It's how hard you work it yourself. Facebook ads, anything you do in terms of new media, it's about tracking it, measuring it all the time, working out where it works best for you and what works best for the target audience that you're after. When we looked at, if you take traditional media in terms of newspaper advertising, with certain things you'd advertise in a regional newspaper, certain things you'd advertise in a broadsheet, in a business paper, in a tabloid. Likewise, with Facebook, you say, well, who's my target market? Who am I after in that? I think the greatest problem with people in terms of Facebook advertising is there's a misconception about the demographic, the age profile of a Facebook user. They are over the age of 35. The biggest farm bill players are apparently women, housewives in suburbia in their 40s, are the biggest farm bill players. So, don't assume, regardless of what your business is, that your customers aren't there, because the chances are they are.
Thank you.
From a pure ROI basis, I want to break down something a little bit differently. People that are on Google searching are actually out there physically looking for a product. People that are on Facebook, you're trying to interrupt what they were doing to get them to come and buy something. And it's two completely different equations on your conversion rates and how much you pay for ads. The conversion rate on Facebook tends to be a lot lower for paid advertising. I want to stress that there's two different types of advertising on Facebook. There's the Facebook fan page that you all set up. Hopefully you've set it correctly in your business page, not a person page. That Facebook page means that people are already your fans. They go on, they're visiting you, they're looking at you, and you're not interrupting them. So from us, that's a really high conversion rate. Likewise with Twitter, they're already on our page. They're looking at, what we are, and then they're going, good to find a solution to a problem. The advertising on Facebook, which is the paid advertising, you're interrupting them when they're trying to do something else. Now, you're targeting your ads based on keywords. So, for example, what business are you in?
IT consulting.
IT consulting. So if you're targeting the keyword server scalability problem, that's a long tail keyword, it's got all 3 words. It's not going to be used very often, but when someone types that in, saying, oh my god, my head is wrecked, I've got a server scalability problem, his ad pops up, and they're going, you know what, that is a perfect solution. I'm going to go onto his page, and 50% of the time he might convert to a customer. His customer spend might be €10,000 to get it fixed if it's a big customer, but it doesn't happen very often. That's the kind of idea you need to be thinking. But it doesn't happen very often because there's not many people using those search terms. And LinkedIn as well. But I mean, in terms of the Facebook thing, that's the real thing. Are you interrupting them or are you going after them? And if you're interrupting, it's just a little maths equation. The conversion rate's a lot lower when you're interrupting someone.
Okay, thank you. The lady in white here, please.
I was just wondering what you would recommend for business-to-business customers is the most appropriate internet tools to use for anyone in particular.
In terms of customer acquisition?
In terms of utilising to improve sales, conversion rates, whatever, because I can understand the business to B2C, but the B2B, maybe there might be a more of...
B2B for me, it's all about LinkedIn. I know the number of users is smaller. You're at, just under 500,000. Interestingly, certainly in Ireland, LinkedIn is much more business focused, whereas in the US, depending on who you're targeting, the US they do use Facebook more for business than we do over here. Facebook here, it's a little bit slower coming on that side. But LinkedIn, if I was looking for B2B customers, for me, in terms of even how we promote events in the IA, I personally use LinkedIn much more for that. So if I was an IT consultant, for example, or I was an RBK, whatever, that is where I would be going to find conversations. The example I gave earlier on at Speed, I will now say more slower. So Lucy Technologies are a cloud-based financial services, payment services system, and they were looking to build their customer database. They started they joined a load of different discussion groups on LinkedIn. So choose the groups that you want to be affiliated with, and they post really interesting comments. People ask questions. You have an opportunity to reply, give them the answer, give them a solution that they're looking for, and that's a way of starting a conversation and engaging with them. If I was running any events or attending any, I would certainly be putting it up on LinkedIn.
Thanks, John. Good one, yeah. Do you want to start from one?
I have 2 kind of points there very quickly. First of all, I'd say blogging is quite important for all businesses that are trying to hit a business customer, because what you're doing is you're going to address the problems that your customers are currently having and likely to type into Google. Would you mind telling us what business you're in?
I'm in human resource consulting and training at a company called Results Through People.
Excellent. Okay. So the average search that you might want to hit for is what happens when this goes wrong. So, okay, somebody's had an issue and they've come back to work and they decided they want to come back to work 3 days a week. What's the rules? And if you write an article saying, when this happens, this is the solution. That's how they find you, and then they can purchase. Now, the other thing is, how do you know what to write about? Because you could infinitely write, okay? There's a tool, pens out, guys, webmaster tool, keyword tool external. Just type that into Google, keyword tool external. And you can go in and you can look at Google's database of what the searches have been in the local area for these terms. So in Ireland, how many people write this particular phrase? You insert the phrase, it will give you the results for that phrase, it will also give you the like results. So rather than just throwing it out there and hoping that something will stick with a shotgun approach, find out people are already searching, then address that problem and say, at the end of things, by the way, this is our expertise. If you want us to come in and give you a 1-hour free consultancy, or if you want to talk to us about this, give us a call. We'll give you a bit of time, and we'll see if we can improve your product. Insert value add, and you say, here's what we're good at.
Thank you.
Speak about what you want to.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? We're all happy. Yeah. But here, go ahead, camera.
Apologies to the gents, another one for John. You mentioned the word loyal fans twice in relation to the first website, or first Facebook you mentioned. How do we know they're loyal? Are they just all friends, relations, cousins, or is there any way of identifying that they're loyal fans?
Well, I suppose in that particular example, she's able to track the conversion. These are people who, the only people who, when she had the actual store, she had a Facebook site. And so when she had her physical store, she still had a Facebook site. She wasn't transacting any business on it. She was using it to communicate with those of us who were customers, who she knew were customers. And that's how she collected their data in the first place. When she closed the store, she has grown that number somewhat, but what she's doing is she's getting more frequent visits from those 2,500 people that she was, and she was hoping for the best that I'd actually drive by. So from her point of view, she can measure it. She knows who's buying from her. But as I say, that's 2,000. She wasn't drawing much more than that as a physical store. She just managed to reduce her overhead significantly. So it's worked. I mean, it's not going to work in all businesses. I specifically gave that example as a small independent boutique who has managed to find a more profitable, cost-effective model for running a business than actually having had the overhead of a store in Dublin.
To give you the technical side of things as well, Facebook has a thing called Insights on your business page. If you click on that, it'll bring you to your statistics. This is your analytics version of Facebook, okay? It'll tell you how many people read your posts when you post them. So, for example, I'm involved with a social entrepreneur project called Christmas FM, which is a radio station, non-stop Christmas music, donate the money to charity, okay? Now, we have 16,000 fans, and a lot of them will be frequently on Facebook. And you go into your insights and you see, out of those 16,000 fans, how many did they actually get to see? Because if someone doesn't log into their Facebook for a week, they're not going to catch up all the way to the bottom. So you say, out of those 16,000 fans, did 5,000 read it? Did 10,000 read it? And then, what was the communication like? Did they like the post? Did a lot of people comment? Was there a discussion based on it? And this is the algorithms that Google and Facebook use to work out, is this page a good page? Is there a lot of customer feedback? A good percentage is even just 1% feedback on each of the posts you do. And then again, you can have lots of fans. One of the conversations we had before we started is you can buy fans on eBay, right? So if you see a little business and it's got 100,000 fans, someone's just flogged a guy in China to reset his IP every 5 minutes and add you, and they're all fake profiles, and none of them will actually read it. And that's no good, except it makes your ego feel great. So Facebook Insights will give you the absolute data, and then you'll find out how loyal they are or not. Okay?
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Over here.
If you have a Facebook page, a business Facebook page, and you have a lot of visitors that are not Facebook users, what do impressions exactly mean?
The impressions, the question is, what do impressions mean in terms of Facebook hits, and let's just extend it to web hits as well. Back in the day, they used to talk about page hits, and a single page can have several hits in it in terms of loading content from different areas. So that means absolutely nothing. If someone goes, look, we've got 10 million hits, it could mean absolutely nothing. If you've got 10,000 page views, that's okay. How many unique page views have you got? 1 million, okay, you've got 1 million unique customers who have come back. That's kind of impressive. So that's the kind of data you need to be doing. If they're coming in from other sites, like Google to Facebook, the reason is you haven't got your own website, or if you do, you haven't optimized it. So that's your only presence online, and they're trying to find you. That's a good indication you need a website. So, as mentioned before, in somebody else's, I can't remember whose name, Google did a project called Getting Irish Business Online, Getting Business Online.ie. I was one of the case studies for it. It will give you a free domain, it will give you the tools to set up a really basic website. It takes about 30 minutes. That's what you need to do to get to the next step of, don't bring them to your Facebook page, because there's distractions there, there's ads from other people. Bring them straight to your domain where you control what you say. That's my opinion.
Okay.